Hey cats, it's Ed Midsole here. I've reviewed a ton of Nike shoes over the past couple of years. Today I'm going to attempt to rate every single one of those from worst to best. I've included all of the currently available shoes on Nike's website that I have reviewed as of making this video in October 2022. I haven't tried every single model out, like the Infinity Run Flyknit 3 or the Miler 3 either. Some of those are just sort of cookie cutter copy and paste jobs. So let's grade all of Nike's running shoes I've recently reviewed from A through to E. Thanks for joining me on the channel. If it's your first time here, hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications when I launch those new videos for you. It really helps us out too if you give this video a thumbs up like, but also share it with your running buddies. If you're particularly enjoying the content and you'd like to help the channel out on a more ad hoc basis, hit that super thanks button below. It's really appreciated. So let's get to it, from the worst through to the best. First up is the Terra Kiger 8. I'm giving this one an E. This shoe came unfinished for me, with missing eyelet holes and a very unstable feel underfoot. It's literally a shoe that I've put aside and I haven't thought about utilising it at all to get some more miles in. If you're looking to use it in forest conditions with anything involving moisture, wet lumber, just don't even think about it. There's a bit of an odd lockdown over the top of the foot as well. It felt kind of strange. The larger air unit in the forefoot felt kind of unstable for me. That's not something that you want on trails, especially when you're a taller person with a higher centre of gravity. The trails are already unstable enough for me. They did make some changes to the outsole setup in the Terra Kiger 8, but they weren't really that impressive. I think one of the biggest letdowns of any of the Nike shoes I've tested out over the past year or so. Not a great feel in the upper, and it's just getting heavier and heavier iteration after iteration. So big step back, the Terra Kiger 8, I give an E. Next up is the ZoomX Zegama. This shoe showed lots of promise but really failed to deliver. I've relegated it to dog walking, putting out the trash, and only in dry conditions as well, because the outsole is just pathetic in wet conditions. Despite all of this rubber here, it just does next to nothing. And there's a load of exposed midsole here as well. It just acts like a slide. How you can have a trail shoe with such a design on the outsole is beyond me. Only really suited for dusty gravel paths or bone dry sun-baked mud. Forest conditions with any sort of moisture, if you're going to be going over some wet lumber, just don't even think about it. Bit of an odd lockdown as well over the top of the foot, and you had the integration of this sort of gaiter around the edge to try and stop debris from getting in, which just didn't really work. A lot of people mention that the shoe got better over time. Haven't really found that at all. In fact, if you told me that this shoe had React in it rather than a ZoomX core, I would probably have believed you. A real missed opportunity for this Trail Terra. This one gets a grade of D-. This one's really left me confused and somewhat perplexed as to what Nike think their customers want. The Pegasus Turbo Nature. Now, I love the Pegasus Turbo 2. That was a fantastic shoe. Very versatile, very forgiving underfoot. But the Pegasus Turbo Nature was nothing like that shoe for me. It was just kind of firm, overly rigid. It felt a country mile from the softer layer of ZoomX that we had in the Pegasus Turbo, along with that slightly more resilient React underneath. I persisted with the shoe a little bit, but found the lockdown poor, just overly constrictive, I suppose, in the wrong areas. Again, the outsole design just really doesn't work in particularly wet conditions. Quite slippery, in fact, on some wet surfaces. Anytime I used the shoe for a run, I just came away thinking it was more like a lifestyle casual model, rather than a responsive and speedy shoe, which the original was. Why Nike allowing the design process here to enable the shoes to get heavier and heavier, moving away from the really good versatility and use case of some of their past models? I just can't work it out. Seemingly no benefits really to utilising that crushed up ZoomX scrap in the midsole. This one promised a lot, but it delivered quite an uneven ride for me between the two shoes in my pair. I could have sent it back, but that's not the experience that I had when using the shoe. I got this out the box and it really didn't deliver. And I've had loads of other people comment they've had exactly the same problems as me with the Pegasus Turbo Nature. A big fat D for disappointing for this model. Next up, coming in with a C- is the Nike Zoomfly 5. Another classic clunker from Nike. It's heavy, it's rigid, it's got a weird upper that feels like a cloth you might use in the kitchen. The ZoomX that we've got here in the midsole is once again a shadow of its former self, I suppose. And generally, for a lighter runner like myself, I just found it quite unforgiving to run in. Just uninspiring. It never once made me think, oh, I really want to run in the ZoomFly 5 today. That just isn't the case. I think Tim Gross has had similar issues as well with it. Just kind of sat on the side, and there's a load of other more fun things to run in. Not that I want to run in a really exciting shoe every day, but it just didn't really feel that comfortable to ever go out in it. There's just a whole bunch of other shoes out there that are better and cheaper. There's a carbon plate in here, apparently. Some sort of plate. I can't really feel it, to be honest. If you love rigid, somewhat unforgiving and overly hefty shoes, the ZoomFly 5s are right up your alley. You're gonna love it. I'll give it a below satisfactory C-. Okay, finally we're getting to some more enjoyable shoes now, so the excitement level, the enthusiasm's going to go through the roof. Now, aside from durability, I actually quite enjoyed the Streakfly. Got to 100 miles in it pretty quickly, and I gotta say,
yeah, it's alright.
Sort of out of the black and into the blue, Neil Young style. The Streakfly was a nice little run around, quite fun, light and nimble. It's a bit like a smart car, I suppose. I don't think anyone was going to race in it, really. It's not really got that propulsive feel. Just kind of felt like a speed slipper. I think it's got like a bit of an identity crisis. Everybody thought it was going to be like this sort of race shoe for 5k or lower distances, but never really felt like that to me. Kind of fits into that same pocket as the SC Pacer. I can't imagine how someone ran a marathon in that shoe. I know that someone did recently, one of the fastest ever for an American lady. Yeah, it just seems like pure pain for me to do that. Bear in mind, I'm a non-elite athlete who probably eats too much pizza. I'm not even anywhere near there. Kind of felt like a ZoomX Lite. And I have to say that the ZoomX material here does feel different to that featured in other Nike ZoomX shoes. The upper does run a little bit long in the Streakfly. I think you probably afford to go down a half size. Felt very roomy, in fact, in the toe box. Very good though for short range speed work and perhaps some lower distance stuff. I mean, they could have called this the Pegasus Turbo 3, I suppose, if they put a little layer of React underneath. I'll give this a very reasonable C after my review and testing. I reckon they could have chopped off a few grams by getting rid of this stupid bit here, which is pretty much where everybody managed to tear into the ZoomX and damage their pair. There's a lot of shoes in this room right now. There's a lot of shoes. Gonna have to do something about that. Next up with a nice solid C is the Nike Alphafly 3. Budget friendly shoe that does lots of things very well. Use it for training, you could even use it for some racing, I suppose. I think you could do far worse as well, especially at the prices they're at right now. Cheap as chips, and it's going to leave you a few extra quid for some 4-finger Kit Kats. Cushlon in the midsole for those who love the Pegasus 35 and the 36, and an upper that does the job with the minimum material weighing you down. I think it's a shoe that rolls back the years, really. It feels like one of the earlier Pegasus models. Very versatile, and the grip was actually very good on the Alphafly 3. Certainly worth checking out, and I think that's why Nike have kept it in the actual store. Still there as a current model. A very solid C. Now, a pair of shoes next that I can't find. It must be somewhere in the house. I'm sure it will turn up at some point. It's the Vomero 16. When Nike get the foam combos right, they really nail it. Proper ZoomX here in the midsole as a core with SR02 stuff to cage it in. I loved the very padded upper on the Vomero 16. It was like putting your foot into a cushion. Not that I've ever done that, but that's what I can imagine it was like. And it had one of the best out-of-the-box smells of any running shoe that I've smelled in a long time. And that's very, very important when you're buying a running shoe. Great for distance, but reasonable in weight to easily trump the ZoomFly 5 for speed and comfort. The outsole was super capable on loads of different surfaces as well. Excellent, even on some light trails. I think it's a bit of an unsung hero amongst Nike's other models. Kind of gets a bit forgotten, you know, because it's not this all singing, all dancing thing. Got all the other super shoes out there, plates in and everything. People overlook the Vomero 16. I think it's a really solid model. Did I mention how good it smells? A top-notch B- for the Vomero 16.
We're on to some of the big boys now.
The Alphafly 2. This is one of Nike's most expensive running shoes up on their website right now. But perhaps not exactly what everybody expected from the second version. Yes, I mean, it's been worn for the fastest marathon ever. That has to be considered. But let's be honest, it's more about the man than the shoe. For us mortals, I feel it does present a fantastic marathon option. Though for anything below that, I think it's just pure overkill. Even more cushion here and improved stability will be music to some people's ears. but the insane price tag and perhaps less propulsive feel might actually move people away from this shoe and back to the original version. I know Andy the FOD runner particularly enjoys the Alphafly version 1 over the 2. I can kind of see that actually, certainly running some faster reps in the shoe does feel a little bit clunky compared to the first one. Can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. I think it is one of those shoes where it's been dialed in particular for someone very famous, just to Kip's personal preferences. I think perhaps the original was a little bit more of a shoe that other people can get something out of. Interesting that very few of those sort of top level athletes are choosing to go with the Alphafly 2. It's almost like that they don't want to wear a pair of Air Jordans if they're not Michael. Upper's superb. I'm not dead set on all the changes to the midsole and the outsole. In fact, I'm seeing a lot of degradation to the outsole after not even 100 miles. I did not get that in the previous versions of the shoe at more miles. So there we go. We'll have my 100-mile review on this one very soon, so do keep your eyes peeled. Still a great shoe though. I will give it a solid B rating. I think just could do a little bit better in the future. Who knows what they'll do to it next time. Obviously, we've got to at some point get to the Pegasus 39. And now is the time. A solid Nike daily running shoe. There should always be one in the lineup, and I really think they nailed it this time out. I just love the profile of it. Look at that. It's a beautiful thing. It looks like something you get in some video game that gives you like plus 50 agility and speed. Does what it says on the tin, and fantastic outsole grip as well. Well done, Nike. Simple upper, and I really like the dual air units that we had in the heel and the forefoot. It's kind of like a more battle-ready version of the Rivalfly 3. Little bit of extra weight there, but certainly similar vibe in both shoes. And a little bit more stack as well, probably going to make it slightly better than the Rivalfly 3 over distance. If you like microphones, then this is probably like the SM58 of running shoes. Well done to Nike on returning the Pegasus to what it should be really, which is the running shoe for all runners. Well, almost all runners. I shall give this a brilliant B. 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 We're getting to the top echelons now. The penthouse, the mansion, the co-op white chocolate cookies. Next shoe looks absolutely battered, and I'm sorry about that, but I really enjoyed using it. It's the Tempo Next Percent. So this one's still in Nike's running shoe lineup on their website. It's like over 2 years now. They haven't updated it, they haven't even made a hint about updating it, and maybe that just means that it works. I'm giving this one an A- today, kind of like the unsung hero of the Nike shoe lineup. A super balance here of stability but yet propulsive feel, with a smattering of the Nike tech. Come on, everyone loves these. Except when they burst. And it's like chainmail in terms of durability and feel on foot. The outsole is as durable as a Mojo encrusted Fender Stratocaster, rather than the lesser model of the Alphafly 2 actually, which is nowhere near as durable. It's just flaking away. And let's not forget, we had a little extra in the heel, making this one of the first illegal shoes. Yeah, illegal for champions, but absolutely okay for us. Though there is a premium price for this shoe, even now, 2 years down the line. That's why I've given it the A- rating today, cats. One of Nike's best models as of October 2022. There, I said it. What do we have next? Invincible Run, Flyknit 2. An improved upper on this one, it really did make a difference for me. Gone were the blisters on my toes from the first version. All I was left with was beautiful kitten-like comfort, I suppose, around the foot. Maybe I'm over-egging the pudding there, but no, it was good. Very comfy. I think it's probably one of Nike's best shoe models right now. It really does what it suggests it's going to do, which is provide you with this absolutely ridiculous amount of ZoomX. Very compressive, cushioned, and it got me out there doing a few miles, even on days where I didn't really fancy it. But then I did fancy it when you get out there. Do you have those days? Yep. I find it really durable as well, as long as you're not walking down any metal staircases and catch the back of the shoe. Or you could get your saw out and just chop that bit off and you'll be fine then. Be careful if you're going to use your saw. In fact, just don't do it. Leave it to people other than me. Epic grip from the outsole, a waffle-like wonder. Massive cushion, as I say, great for recovery or easy efforts, or perhaps for some longer runs too. Yeah, it's a weird looking shoe. I mean, if you're going to wander around Exeter city centre in it, and I did that, and people looked at me funny, but it is one of the more spot-on models that Nike have released over the past few years. Let's see how the V3 shapes up. I have my doubts. I'm giving the Invincible Run Flyknit 2 an A. Now, the last shoe I'm going to cover here, I'm putting in purely as a token gesture. I'm not even going to say its name because it's been covered so many times before, and I almost feel people declare it has to be in such a video like this. So what I'm going to do is put it up on the screen and you can give it your own grade as to what you think. It might be that you love this shoe, it might be that it just didn't work for you at all. So there we go. Give it your grade now. Okay, we're done. So there's all my grades, people. What did you make of them? What would you change? Would you position them slightly differently? Let the runners know down in the comments. A quick musical interlude for you, because today's video is very long. Today I've been listening to Johnny Cash live at Folsom Prison, but also his other album, which kind of sits very well with this one, live at San Quentin. This is a battered old copy that I bought in a charity shop, which was in incredible condition. I got it for £1. Just think, you can heat your home for that for a whole 5 minutes. You got the classics on here like Folsom Prison Blues. I mean, this album isn't for the faint of heart. There's some quite disturbing tracks on here. Dark as the Dungeon, I Still Miss Someone, and 25 Minutes to Go. It's about as depressing that one as you're going to get. Though the track after that is fantastic, the Orange Blossom Special. Johnny Cash is in real train-like mode there, like an out-of-control choo-choo. On the second side, June Carter does a couple of duets with him, and the brilliant I Got Stripes as well, where the inmates that are listening to the concert are getting more and more excitable. If you've never heard these albums, I do suggest you go out and check them out. Seems completely impossible now, would just never happen. You know, a famous recording artist going to a prison performing, and the content of the tracks as well perhaps is going to inspire some sort of unrest, I suppose. Absolutely brilliant albums though. The sound quality is fantastic. It's rock and roll, warts and all. Go and check this one out. Johnny Cash live at Folsom Prison. Thanks for tuning in, people. I hope you enjoyed the show. Hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications. Give this video a thumbs up, like, and share it with your running buddies. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you